Welcome to the 4th grade Mathematics Florida Standards. This presentation will give you general information about the Mathematics Florida Standards, as well as specific information about 4th grade standards. This publication was made possible by a grant from Carnegie Corporation of New York. The statements made and views expressed are solely the responsibility of the author. So, why have new math standards? New standards should help our kids dig deeper so they can explain a concept or how they got to an answer and develop their potential to think more critically and creatively. Any new standards should reflect best practices of schools, states, and countries around the world because our kids deserve the best education we can give them. In addition, the point of setting standards for what children should know at the end of each year is so that we know when kids are ready to move to the next level or are falling behind so that we can help them catch up rather than give up. Just as every patient deserves a doctor whose knowledge is up to date and who knows the latest technology, every child deserves an education that's current and teaches them the technologies and the ability to learn new ones that they'll need to succeed. Educational standards in America need to match or exceed the standards for the best performing countries in the world. Education should be about standards, not standardized tests. Those standards should set the bar high, but be similar enough across schools so if your family takes a job across the country, is in the military and moves around, or just buys a home in a neighboring district, your child isn't either bored or disadvantaged because they don't know what is going on. That's why the states work together to develop standards for what kids ought to know by the end of each year, learning from teachers, parents, and employers, and also from the best performing schools, states, and countries, so that our kids would be able to compete in a global world. Standards don't tell any state, school, or teacher how to teach or what curriculum to use. That way, teachers can continue to use their knowledge and expertise and innovation in their classrooms. And when something works, they can share it not just with teachers down the hall, but all over the country. It is time to return to the days when American students got the best education in the world, because when they graduate from high school, technical school, or college, that is who they will be competing with for jobs. You shouldn't be teaching or testing students on their skills for rote memorization because knowledge is changing so quickly that tomorrow's workers will need to anticipate what is coming next and be able to transfer their skills to meet new challenges. Kids need to learn how to use their knowledge to think carefully, critically, and creatively to solve new problems and new dilemmas. And if that's what we're teaching, that is what we ought to be testing to make sure we are succeeding and to help kids, schools, and districts that are struggling. The Mathematics Florida Standards are comprised of two sets of standards: the standards for mathematical practice and the content standards. The standards for mathematical practice provide a solid foundation that helps to anchor your child's learning of the mathematics. The content standards change each year as students progress through the grade levels, which allows for continual growth and the development of mathematicians. The combination of both the content standards and the standards for mathematical practice build a solid foundation of the Mathematics Florida Standards. The standards for mathematical practice are the backbone for building understanding in mathematics. These standards are consistent throughout all grade levels, kindergarten through 12th grade. As your child progresses through the grades, they will refine these mathematical behaviors. The bolded print identifies the skill that your child is using as they learn their grade level standards. The content standards are composed of the following domains for each grade level. Notice that the domain counting and cardinality is only found in kindergarten. Operations and algebraic thinking, numbers and operations in base 10, measurement, data, and geometry are consistent across all grade levels. In 3rd grade, the domain numbers and operations with fractions is first introduced. Today, the key to success, whether you're a mechanic called to fix something you've never seen before or a medical professional dealing with an outbreak of a new disease, is the ability to transfer your skills from one domain to the next. Education needs to give our kids core knowledge and an ability to apply that knowledge in real-world settings. The chart on this slide illustrates this idea. Listed in each grade level are the critical areas that will be addressed during that school year. This provides a global overview of the critical content taught in each grade level. As part of a critical area in 4th grade, students will develop an understanding and fluency with multi-digit multiplication. They apply their understanding from 3rd grade of models for multiplication, such as equal-sized groups, arrays, and area models, place value, and properties of operations, in particular the distributive property, as they develop, discuss, and use efficient and accurate methods to find products of multi-digit whole numbers. In each of the strategies shown on this slide, the factors of 35 and 12 have been broken apart by place value. 35 is broken apart into 30 plus 5, and 12 is broken apart into 10 plus 2. We can see here a variety of strategies that students will explore and build understanding of in 4th grade, such as an area model, which is connected to their understanding of arrays. However, with larger multi-digit numbers, it's much more efficient to use this area model than to draw out an array. Students may use a written method for partial products in which they're recording the multiplication of each place value. And then also an example of the distributive property being recorded the way that most of us are used to seeing it, using parentheses, and then finding the total of all of those products. Students develop fluency with efficient procedures for multiplying whole numbers, and they understand and explain why these procedures work based on place value and the properties of operations. You can see in each of these examples, it's connected to the place value of the digits. While connections may be made to the traditional algorithm, which is the way we learned to multiply multi-digit numbers in school, fluency of that specific strategy is not an expectation until 5th grade. In 4th grade, students will also apply their understanding of models for division, place value, properties of operations, and the relationship between division and multiplication as they develop, discuss, and use efficient and accurate procedures to find quotients involving multi-digit dividends. They select and accurately apply appropriate methods to estimate and mentally calculate quotients and interpret remainders based upon the context. Base 10 models are used to increase mastery of basic division facts, as well as deepening understanding of division with multi-digit dividends. This example problem also shows how students are expected to interpret the remainder of a division problem to reasonably answer a problem situation. Much in the same way that fluency with the traditional algorithm for multi-digit multiplication is not expected until 5th grade, the strategy of long division that most of us are familiar with is also not expected until 5th grade. In 4th grade, students will develop understanding of fraction equivalence and operations with fractions. Through the use of models such as bar models, fraction tiles, number lines, and set models, students will recognize that two different fractions can be equal, and they develop methods for generating and recognizing equivalent fractions. Similar models will be used to build students' understanding of addition and subtraction of fractions with like denominators, and the multiplication of fractions by whole numbers. The final critical area of 4th grade connects to students' ability to analyze and classify two-dimensional shapes based on their properties. In 4th grade, students will describe, analyze, compare, and classify two-dimensional shapes. Through building, drawing, and analyzing the shapes, students will deepen their understanding of the properties of two-dimensional objects and use them to solve problems involving symmetry. Students may use attributes of shapes, such as the presence of parallel or perpendicular sides, the presence of specific angle measures, or symmetry. The graphic organizer on this slide shows how quadrilaterals could be classified, and it also demonstrates how a shape may be classified in more than one way. The whole point of setting standards for what children ought to know at the end of each year is so we know when kids have met those standards and are ready to move on, and so we can flag problems early so kids don't fall further behind each year and eventually give up. With that being said, it is important to remember that every child develops at his or her own pace. It is important to stay in contact with your child's teacher to further support their understanding of mathematics. In other words, you are the biggest advocate for your child. This publication was made possible by a grant from Carnegie Corporation of New York. The statements made and views expressed are solely the responsibility of the author.